Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we go over the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. I'm one of your hosts, Katie Halper. Just you know what? My phone was silenced, but my FaceTime wasn't. So apologies for that.
I accept your apology on behalf of all the viewers
Thank you.
who were disturbed by the sound of the phone ringing, but
Yeah.
we'll get over it.
All right, we'll get over it. Thank you.
And I accept it on their behalf. And I'm also Aaron Maté. I'm the other host of the show.
Yes. And we are here to pump you up.
Mm-hmm.
How was your weekend, Aaron? Before we jump into the atrocious news clips.
Weekend was fine. It's just it's a hard time. It's a hard time to be watching. For everybody to be watching this unfold. How was your weekend?
It was good. I saw the Batman movie.
Okay. Yeah. We had dinner on Friday. We can disclose.
We did. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
That was
nice. Yeah, that was really nice.
Enjoyable. Yeah. How was the Batman movie?
I liked it. I'm not really into those things. Like, I don't remember if that's Marvel or DC. But I thought it was engaging. It was long. It was very long, but I liked it. And you know what? I didn't know this. This is not a spoiler alert or anything. It's the fact that Colin Farrell plays the Penguin. You're not going to believe it. I wish I'd seen it. I mean, he looks nothing like him. Yeah.
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 So
let me thank people for the birthday wishes. It was my birthday this weekend.
Wait, that's the other thing I was going to say. Wait, everyone, this is so funny because I tweeted that it was your birthday. I Facebooked happy birthday to you. Then on the Katie Halper show last night, when I had on Alan McLeod, I happy birthday to you because it was your actual birthday. Then on my call in, I happy birthday to you. And then everyone was like, don't forget to happy birthday, Aaron, on Monday morning. And of course I forget. So happy Monday morning, day after your birthday.
Thank you. And thanks for being such a good friend. That's very kind.
No, of course,
all those multi-platform birthday wishes. I don't deserve it.
Yeah, no. Happy birthday. Everyone wish Aaron a happy birthday. Well, everyone was so grateful for your birth yesterday.
Well, thank you, everybody. Everyone's messages were very sweet, and I really appreciate it.
And how was your actual birthday?
It was a great day.
Great.
It was a great day. Yeah.
We got to celebrate it with you early on
That's
Friday.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Great dinner.
And I got to celebrate it with Chuck Todd, Margaret Brennan, Dana Bash, and all the other wonderful people who fill our Sundays with so much joy.
Right.
And without further ado, I say we hit it.
Great transition. Yeah.
And there are increasing concerns that Russia may use chemical or biological weapons to target insurgents hiding in basements, even as it accuses Ukraine of planning such an attack themselves. As Volodymyr Zelensky said, if you want to know Russia's plans, look at what Russia accuses others of. So is Vladimir Putin looking for an off-ramp? If so, what kind of deal can you make to end a war with a country that won't even admit there is a war?
Okay, so I just wanted to show that because I think Chuck Todd raises a really helpful question. What kind of deal can you make to end a war with a country that won't even admit that there is a war? I mean, what does he think he's contributing to the discourse? Can you imagine having the power that he has?
Yeah.
And that's your takeaway. That's your rhetorical question.
Yeah, he's expressing the point of view of the bipartisan foreign policy establishment, which he represents as a spokesperson, essentially, which is that they do not want to make any deal to end this war, because if they were actually serious about making a deal to end the war, there are proposals on the table. Russia, before the war, asked for Ukraine to agree to remain neutral and not join NATO. That's the core demand. And Chuck Todd knows that. But he doesn't want to end the war. He wants to keep it going. He wants to use Ukraine as cannon fodder against Russia. So that's why he's now trying to come up with rhetorical ways to justify not making a deal to end the war. And look, it's horrible. And the more I keep hearing about what's happening inside Ukraine, speaking to people who are there, people who are inside Russia, what Russia is doing is really horrible. And they've, by the way, turned many people who are on their side inside Ukraine against them. I just spoke last night on my call-in show. Somebody called in from Ukraine, and he personally is very sympathetic to Russia's grievances when it comes to NATO expansion and using the Donbass for this proxy war to bleed Russia and launching, backing a government that it helped install in 2014 to wage a war on the Russian-speaking population of Ukraine. That's all happened, and this caller was very sympathetic to all that. But to respond by invading the entire country and destroying civilian infrastructure and attacking cities, by the way, where the majority of people even speak Russian, or a lot of people speak Russian, like in Kharkiv, it's just people just can't make sense of it. And what this caller said is that Putin has turned many of people who were sympathetic to him against him. And just today in Donetsk, as we're speaking, there was a rocket attack by the Ukrainian military, killed at least 20 civilians. So it's escalating out of hand. And so the need for a resolution is dire. And there's no voice right now in Washington willing to say that we should make some sort of compromise, quote unquote, compromise.
And they keep saying, like, buckle, it's time to, like, it's going to be a long road. It's going to go on for a while, which is not something you want to hear. And, regardless of people's thoughts, feelings about, Putin, about Zelensky, about Biden, obviously we challenge the kind of dominant narrative about the causes of this war, but all wars end in negotiation and diplomacy. And the question is, how much more bloodshed before that happens? And the fact that everyone isn't doing their utmost, it's not surprising, but the fact that people who have this large media reach aren't pressing in that direction, which they could be. I mean, just imagine what the news media would look like if that were their priority, as opposed to ratings and the pushing for, like, Pentagon achievements.
That's right.
Pentagon's goals, what that would look like. It would be totally different.
And now we're getting these allegations from both sides that the other side is preparing to use chemical weapons. Both sides, accusing the other of potentially launching a false flag. And it just speaks to how dangerous this moment is when you have the world's top nuclear powers accusing the other of potentially using chemical weapons and plotting false flags. It's crazy to see this happening. And Ukraine is caught in the middle of it. And we'll get more to the issue of chemical weapons use because there's more clips on that we have coming up.
All right. So what do we got next? So thank you, Chuck Todd, for setting it up. Thank you for honestly framing it so honestly, which is that you're here to kind of get in the way of any deal making. So
exactly.
Blood on your hands, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next? So what do we got next? This is a
troops.
Good one. Martha Raddatz. We got Martha Raddatz on This Week.
Biden has vowed U.S. troops will not get involved in this conflict. Ukraine's government has actively recruited foreigners to join the fight. Over 20,000 have reportedly expressed interest, and many Americans are showing up daily, giving up everything at home in order to take on the Russians. We went to a secret location in western Ukraine to meet some of these men to understand why they're here.
They have already built the bunkers with tunnels snaking beneath the earth, and they say they are ready to fight.
Vladimir Putin is an incredibly tough foe. Ruthless, killed a lot of people. Are you willing to risk your life for this country?
I definitely think that fighting the war here is worth it because it keeps the war away from the home front.
Oh, there he is. He's channeling friend of show Adam Schiff. Fight the war here so we don't have to fight it. Fight the war. Well, he's here for him because he's over there. But fight the war in Russia so we don't have to fight it here.
That's right, Katie. If U.S. veterans don't go over to Ukraine to fight Russians there, then Russians any minute are going to be invading. They're going to be coming into Brooklyn, Alaska, everywhere, California, all up and down the coast. So we got to fight them there.
Queens, Staten Island.
Yeah, they're coming in to all the boroughs. They're coming.
All the boroughs, yeah.
Perkins, a Navy veteran, has a wife and a 2-year-old son.
It keeps the war away from the home front.
Lane Perkins, a Navy veteran, has a wife and a 2-year-old son at home in San Diego. When he heard President Biden warn of an invasion, he knew. So at 26 years old, he got on a plane and then to the Georgian Legion.
What does that mean? He knew.
Yeah,
he knew he had to go. He knew that it was that he had to fight the war over there instead of over here. Like, what does she mean?
He knew.
He just knew it. He knew it was his time. I mean, I don't know what she's saying.
Warned of an invasion, he knew. So at 26 years old, he got on a plane and then to the Georgian Legion, headquartered here in Ukraine.
I felt personally that this was by far the best option for military service to Ukraine.
The Legion from the former Soviet Republic of Georgia is made up of volunteers from around the world, most of the people ex-military.
Anything, no Nazi insignia that we see, is there?
No, but you know what?
Right.
You know what? Look, back in 2014, during the Maidan protests, which initially were very, peaceful, pro-democratic, all walks of Ukrainian society, protesting corruption against Yanukovych. But then things escalated into violence led by the far right. And that led to the US-backed coup in early 2014. And there are allegations that there were Georgian snipers brought in from Georgia, and they were used as part of this massacre that took place when dozens of people were killed a day or two before Yanukovych, the president, fled. And the allegation was that these Georgian snipers were used to basically falsely pin the blame on the Ukrainian government, stir up more violence, and give the coup plotters a pretext to basically force the president Yanukovych to flee. So the allegation is that Georgians were involved in that. Not something I've confirmed, but that's an allegation that's out there. So, it just speaks to the very international dimension of this conflict, which is very dangerous.
Their job? To train, get civilians and refugees across the border.
But are you going to be in the fight?
Me personally, yeah. If it's needed, I'll be in the fight.
Harrison Josefowicz is 25 and was a Chicago police officer.
You just quit your job and got on a plane.
Pretty much.
Why?
This is the right thing to do.
Harrison spent 5 years in the U.S. Army and did a tour in Afghanistan.
This has more refugees than Afghanistan, and we can't sit idly and just watch it happen.
The Georgian Legion runs daily training, everything from first aid to shooting and moving techniques.
I can say that Putin doesn't know what's coming.
A tougher fight.
A very much tougher fight. We're going to see an exponential increase in numbers very, very shortly here. They're going to be the hardcore battle-trained Americans, Brits, and everybody else in between.
British citizen Christopher Garrett has spent his life in war zones around the world. He is now bringing life-saving equipment to Ukraine and vetting others who want to help.
People need to understand that if they're coming to Ukraine to fight or to provide medical support or anything, they need to be coming for the good of Ukraine.
Overseeing this operation, a Georgian.
I've been at war with Russia for the last 30 years, and I have never seen such a brutality.
Mamuka says at the age of 14, he was captured and held in Russian captivity.
What do you think is the end?
I don't know who will stay alive out of this war, but I'm sure that we will win it.
He says the men volunteering to fight for Ukraine are the faces of democracy.
Being quiet and hiding and closing eyes on what is going on will not avoid us World War III.
And those Russian soldiers on the other side, many young and inexperienced?
They are just sending their young soldiers to get slaughtered, I would say.
Emmanuel is Albanian. He's been living in Ukraine for a few years. It's now his home, and he says he will protect it at all costs.
If they want my gun, they can come and take it. I have a lot of brothers here. If they're coming here, they will get what they deserve.
I mean, this is just this is just straight up war propaganda. You can see how excited they are that instead of, again, efforts being made, as you talked about, to broker peace, to end the war, it's like everyone's mobilizing to fuel it and to glorify people who are coming in from around the world to fight. And I'm sure some people have, well-intentioned motives. They see a country being attacked. They want to help resist the invaders. Okay. But there's also, as we've talked about, a very heavy neo-Nazi contingent inside the Ukrainian forces. And we know already that people from the far right from around the world are coming to join the fight for that purpose, to help that cause. I mean, that's been reported on everywhere. And of course, this will only fuel all that. And it will only fuel not just far right extremism inside Ukraine, but everywhere around the world that these volunteers are coming from, because they're going to go back eventually if they survive. And it's just a recipe for disaster.
Can we also just listen to what she says? So it's interesting how she just uses this kind of Ukrainian framing. Well, let me just play this. She sets this up really well about what Putin's doing to his soldiers. Hold on, let's see.
He does World War III.
And those Russian soldiers on the other side, many young and inexperienced.
They are just sending their young soldiers to get slaughtered, I will say.
Emmanuel is
it's just
their side.
Yeah. Right. So is their side, but she just takes it that's the framing, right? That it's one side has these, they're the underdogs, but look, all these people are coming to train, they're getting vetted by these people. And then the other side, it's like she's I don't know. I guess she's just accepting the framing of the other side being cannon fodder.
Yeah.
But this side isn't cannon fodder.
They're both sending their young to be slaughtered.
Right.
But we can't see ourselves as somehow comparable to Russia. We're always good and evil, as we're going to hear Chuck Todd tell us later on.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
Line. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next clip.
Let's go to the next one, yeah.
Israeli embassy, they adamantly denied that they put any pressure on Zelensky to accept an unacceptable deal. I will accept them at their word, but they have been slow, in my view, way too even-handed here. Switzerland, for God's sakes, is all in for the Ukraine. I understand Israel's position, and how does this end? It cannot end with the sellout of Ukraine. It cannot end where we give half of the Ukraine to Putin, because what he will do is consolidate his power, and a year or two from now, take the rest, because he doesn't want a buffer from NATO. He wants to reconstruct the Soviet Union. That is his ambition, and we can stop him. If we go all in to crush the Russian economy, if we help the Ukrainians with the weapons they need, we should be taking every former Soviet bloc country with S-100, S-200, S-300, anti-aircraft missile systems and flood them into the Ukraine to regain control of Ukrainian skies. I think the Ukrainians can win, but what breaks my heart is it appears to me that Biden is more worried about Putin losing than Ukraine winning, and that is despicable and sad.
So you think this is a sellout of Ukraine, both the Biden administration as well as the Israelis potentially wanting to see Ukraine taken down?
Lindsay's being challenged here. Are you possibly criticizing
Israel,
the holy state of Israel?
I know.
And he'll clarify that no way. He will never criticize Israel. It's just Biden.
He's about to cuck out.
Well, I'm not saying that about Israel. I'm saying they have discussions with Putin. He's a war criminal. He wants all of Ukraine eventually, and he will take it if we don't stop him here. So I'm not suggesting that Israel's selling out the Ukraine. I am suggesting that the Biden administration has no stomach for this fight. The reason they're slow walking military aid to the Ukrainians is they never expected Putin to lose, and they can't embrace the idea that he would lose. He's a climate change partner. He is an Iran deal maker in the eyes of the Biden administration. In my eyes, he's a menace to mankind. He's a war criminal, and he needs to be taken out by his own people. If we spent more time thinking about how to help Ukraine win than worrying about how to keep Putin in power, we would be better off. As to my Israeli friends, I understand you have a problem in Syria. I've been one of your biggest champions, but what I hope the world will do is speak with one voice that Putin is a war criminal. He's no longer a legitimate leader, and it is time for us to get him gone. It'd be better to have a Russian leader that wouldn't marry up with Iran and Syria to begin with. This is the best chance in 20 years to take this guy out, and the Russian people are the vehicle to do it.
Senator.
So basically what he's saying here is that, and this is the main Republican critique of the Biden administration, is that the Biden administration, despite, I think, acting very recklessly and encouraging this war and not taking the diplomatic off-ramps that were there right up until Russia invaded, Lindsey Graham wants the U.S. to be even more militant, to flood Ukraine with even more weapons, and basically fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. That's essentially what he wants. When he talks about Putin wants to conquer all of Ukraine, Russia, again, and you don't have to defend their decision to invade, as we don't, because again, it was, as we've talked about, criminal and reckless, and I think that Russia had other options, but Russia did offer up until the last minute proposals that were reasonable, which is essentially keep Ukraine neutral, don't have it join a hostile military alliance, and have it respect the Minsk peace process that was reached 7 years ago, but which Washington and Kiev have refused to implement, which would have ended the war in the Donbass. So Lindsey Graham, instead of entertaining those proposals, he wants to just funnel more weapons into Ukraine on top of all the weapons that have already been sent there, and basically just use Ukrainians as cannon fodder. And for him, though, and he makes it clear why he wants this to go not just to Ukraine but to Russia as well. He wants to see regime change in Russia. And if more Ukrainians die and keep fighting and keep bleeding Russian soldiers and keep killing Russian soldiers, that, in his view, makes it probably more likely that Vladimir Putin will be overthrown.
Right. Yeah, and he's just calling for the violent overthrow of. He wants a Russian to take him out. He wants the Russians to take him out, which is And he is interesting. Sorry, keep going.
No.
Well, what's interesting is he does that thing, where he actually is saying something honest, which is funny. He's like, he says that they're climate change partners, God forbid, and that they're Iran deal partners, God forbid. And he also he's right that Biden is sacrificing Ukrainians in this proxy war, right? Like, he says that he cares more about making Putin lose. Is that what he says? He says it's about the dynamic between Putin and Biden more than it is about what's happening to the Ukrainian people. Now, he's right, but of course he has that priority also. He doesn't care about the Ukrainian people either.
Absolutely not. And to underscore that, let's go to a flashback clip. It's the next one. It's right underneath this one in the doc, Wilson. Where basically Lindsey Graham has been one of the staunchest advocates since 2014 of using Ukrainians as cannon fodder to fight Russia. And so in late 2016, he went to Ukraine with John McCain and Amy Klobuchar, who we're going to hear from later, I believe, to basically meet with Ukrainian soldiers who were on the front lines of this war that began in 2014, when after the U.S. helped install a coup government, that coup government was dominated by the far right. They essentially declared war on Ukraine's Russian-speaking population. They banned the Russian language. When Ukrainians living in the Donbass started resisting the coup government, they basically declared war on them, and this nasty proxy war broke out. And neocons like Lindsey Graham saw this as an opportunity to bleed Russia, to basically turn this into a quagmire for Russia, because Russia was backing the rebels in the east. So Lindsey Graham and John McCain and Amy Klobuchar go over there and listen to what they say to these Ukrainian soldiers. This is in late 2016.
Your fight is our fight.
Ваша боротьба – це наша боротьба.
2017 will be the year of offense.
2017 рік буде ріком нападу.
All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Ми всі повернемося до Вашингтону і ми будемо відстоювати санкції проти Росії.
Enough of a Russian aggression.
Досить вже російської агресії.
It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
Час вже, щоб вони заплатили важчу ціну.
I believe you will win. I am convinced.
So listen to that. Like, what is a U.S. senator doing, acting like he's some kind of battlefield general in Ukraine and telling them that Russia has to pay a heavier price? He's basically telling them that, like, you have to fight harder, and we're going to support you in that by getting you more weapons. But, like, what business does a senator from South Carolina have going over to Ukraine and telling them that Russia has to pay more? It's insane. But this has been the dominant U.S. policy since 2014. Obama did his best to resist it. People like Lindsey Graham and John McCain were like demanding that he send more weapons to Ukraine, and Obama didn't want to do it.
Right.
In large part because he didn't want the weapons to fall in the hands of neo-Nazis. That was a major part of his concern. But when he went away, when Obama was gone, Trump came in. Trump faced the same pressure from these people. He caved, sent those weapons. Biden has only continued that policy as well. And so now that is the dominant party inside Washington, is people like Lindsey Graham who feel so entitled to use Ukraine as cannon fodder that they go there to directly tell them that that's what they're going to do. And this is not now that Lindsey Graham is saying this. This is late 2016. So it's no surprise then that this has escalated to the point where now Russia is invading to end this fight, because you have people like Lindsey Graham egging it on for many years now. And it's already caused so much destruction in the Donbass, 14,000 people killed up until Russia invaded. And now it's the Russian invasion has made it just catastrophically worse.
Yeah, it is a good metaphor, though, to have someone who was, whose plane was shot down in Vietnam and then was tortured, in the absolute tragedy. I mean, those are understatements of a war and foreign intervention. That was the Vietnam War, and that, of course, that's McCain. But it's, so much for any taking away the right messages from that experience.
Yeah.
As we know, this is a man, McCain, who refused to stop calling Vietnamese people gooks.
Mm-hmm.
He literally just refused to stop doing it. Only the ones who tortured him, though, that was his line. That was his moral line.
Yeah. All right.
Next, what's next? So Lindsey and shout out to Lindsey he also I thought he drunk tweeted it, but he didn't drunk tweet it when he called for Russian to take out Putin.
No,
I thought he was drunk, but he actually, as we see from this appearance, he was just totally as coherent and sober as could be for him. Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, not that I think the U.S. has the right to pick anyone's leaders, but from the point of view, if you wanted to undermine Putin, you couldn't give him a bigger gift than having a U.S. senator calling for him to be overthrown and imposing these sanctions that target, Russian civilians, which is what these sanctions do. I mean, in those situations, people always rally around the flag, and that's what's going to happen.
Right. It creates a bunker mentality.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we got next?
Since the withdrawal from Afghanistan,
the Venezuela decision that really, I think, blew back on them harder than they expected, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, the problem
Can you set up what this decision is?
So we're on the Meet the Press panel, and Chuck Todd just mentioned the Venezuela decision. And what that is after Biden banned Russian oil, they realized, oh shit, we're going to have, a major shortage. And so that's when they decided, oh wait, remember that whole Venezuela thing where we've been trying to overthrow their government for the last 3 years, and we've recognized this new president, Juan Guaido, who hasn't been elected to anything. You know what? Maybe we can drop that for now. Maybe we don't care so much about quote unquote democracy in Venezuela anymore. So Biden sent over a delegation of officials to basically feel out Maduro and see if Maduro will help them out and send them oil. And basically, if Maduro will abandon one of his chief partners, which is Russia. And immediately, like the Florida lobby and bipartisan members of Congress, Robert Menendez, were livid. The idea that we possibly could let Venezuela's economy breathe and not try to destroy it with our economic warfare, which has been so successful for the last 3 years, destroying the Venezuelan economy in a bid to force Venezuelans into enough suffering for them to overthrow Maduro, because we can't do that. Menendez and Lindsey Graham, all these people in Congress are freaking out at even the sight of U.S. officials speaking to Maduro and calling him president once again, Juan Guaido. And by the way, they didn't even tell Juan Guaido that they were coming until they got there. And Juan Guaido apparently was furious, and he was saying that, how could you possibly even think about lifting these sanctions, which are the only thing. And the reason Guaido's so upset is because these sanctions are the only hope he has to ever become president of Venezuela, because he'll never win an election there,
right?
Because his extremist party is so unpopular, and he's advocated destroying the economy for the last 3 years. So no one is ever going to elect him there. So his only hope is for people to suffer enough in Venezuela so that they finally give up and let people like him take over and be a U.S. puppet.
Right. All right, let's go back to that clip. I just want it to be full screen while Aaron was making his point.
In energy politics, there are not a lot of really good actors out there who are producing the kind of energy supplies at the time you need them that can help out, right? Who are the people out there? Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Iran. People who have the capacity to do it are not the people we like, and that's a fact of life. So you pick Russia as your worst case at the moment because you're mad at them. It makes you have to rethink your friendships elsewhere in the world.
And Helene, I want to bring up China.
What are we in, like, grade school?
I know. We're mad at
I'm mad
Russia,
at Russia.
right now. Yeah.
I'm mad at Russia right now. I need Iran.
Russia's
No, I
not
need
my friend
Venezuela.
anymore. I thought you were my friend, Russia. You're not my friend. I'm gonna hang out. You're uninvited my birthday party. I'm gonna invite Venezuela. Such nerds.
It seems like the administration is divided on whether try to separate China from Russia or just say, nope, treat China publicly as a partner of Russia and see if they then are embarrassed and pull back.
It's so interesting watching how the administration is trying to both pull China into this. They're very much threatening China. Be careful how far you go.
Didn't guarantee
in your
sanctions
support.
though. He didn't.
No,
didn't do
no,
that.
no, he didn't. But there's no doubt that a lot of Chinese businesses are going to be dragged into this. I don't see how they get out of it. But at the same time, you also have on the diplomatic front, you have to look at who can help to bring about some sort of exit ramp. Yeah. And when you start talking about that, you've got to look at Israel. You got to look at China, and and China could well be the best chance that there is. So there, it's a push.
Everyone, I just want everyone to mentally prepare.
Yeah.
For some really wise words coming up from the Chuckster. Okay, everyone, get ready. You're about to be
blown away
hit with a profound spiritual insight it might even change your life. Everybody, just get ready
into the human condition.
Now.
When it's good versus evil, you got to sometimes, when you're on the good side, have some ambiguity about discerning the real evil from the somewhat evil, I guess. Anyway, when we come back, a change of subject. I'm going to talk to Bill.
Good versus, hold on. Can we play that again? Yeah, let's rewind that. We can't.
I have that as a solo clip. Listen, if you want to.
When it's good versus evil, you got to sometimes, when you're on the good side, have some ambiguity about discerning the real evil from the somewhat evil, I guess. When we come back.
When it's good versus evil, you have to have some ambiguity.
When it's good versus evil, you got to sometimes, when you're on the good side, have some ambiguity about discerning the real evil from the somewhat evil, I guess. Anyway, when we come back.
I guess, anyway. He seems to realize, like, right after he says that, maybe that it's the dumbest thing that he's uttered that day.
That's my favorite part. He goes, you got to have some ambiguity about the real evil and the somewhat evil, I guess. Anyway. He says, I guess anyway. Like it's like, I just said something that doesn't make any sense. All right, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Let's go to break. Changing subject. Yeah. That was so. Yeah. When it's good versus evil. Wait, once more. I'm sorry. We have to just break this down. When it's good versus evil.
When it's good versus evil, you got to sometimes, when you're on the good side, have some ambiguity.
All right. So when it's good versus evil,
Katie,
and you're on the good side, you have to have ambiguity.
Discerning the real evil from the somewhat evil, I guess. Anyway.
He's like embraces this Manichaean good versus evil, only to land on that it's not really good versus evil. You gotta have ambiguity.
Exactly.
He's like bringing nuance to the most unnuanced framing.
I mean, exactly. And of course, the assumption is that we're good, right?
We're
good. Everyone else is evil. Like, we're good. Like,
right.
Obviously, we're
good. But there's like junior league evil, and then there's like, now I'm going to say anyway. I don't know. What does he say? Anyway, I don't know because I don't know. Anyway, I guess because I don't know enough about sports to say what the alternative to junior league is. I was going to say senior league, but I don't think that's what it's called. Major leagues? Major league evil? Yeah.
This is a great point from Terry Barnes. Just as they're all talking about how basically Saudi Arabia is, I suppose, the lesser evil.
One of our, like a frenemy. Saudi Arabia is like a frenemy.
This weekend, Saudi Arabia executed 81 people in a single day. 81 people in a single day, and some of this was apparently for quote unquote deviant behavior.
Right.
So that's the ambiguity we need right now.
The nuance.
We need the nuance.
Yeah, what did they say? I forgot. What did we just had it highlighted? But I prefer guilt-free Saudi oil. 81 executions in a single day is NBD, really. No big deal, really. Yeah. Jesus Christ. All right. All right, next.
It's so striking to hear Biden. You heard it in the State of the Union.
Okay, so this is just to set this up. This is Jonathan Karl talking to Jane Coaston.
Sanity alert.
I know. Alert. Seriously. When I heard this, I was like, what the hell?
Blow your minds.
She's going to get fired.
Some mild sanity made its way onto the Sunday news shows. This is crazy.
And you hear it over and over again. On one hand, absolutely repeating over and over again, we are not going to fight the Russians in Ukraine. There will be no World War III in Ukraine. But if he hits an inch of NATO territory,
Right.
it's what, World War III?
And I think that
We were 10 miles away.
Right. I think that's the concern here, especially with being so close to Poland. But I also think it's worth recognizing that when people talk about a no-fly zone sounds great, which is why you're hearing polling of people, over 70% of Americans supporting a no-fly zone. But a no-fly zone means World War III. It means the possibility of a nuclear conflict. And especially, as George put it, the idea of mutually assured destruction requires that both parties recognize they could be destroyed. When you have one party that believes they could win a nuclear conflict, that completely changes the calculus here. And I totally understand this administration for attempting to be, look, we want to be as helpful as we can be, but one, we just got out of a more than 20-year conflict in Afghanistan, and two, when people are saying that they want to be supportive of Ukraine, what does that mean? We haven't gotten the polling questions that say, like, boots on the ground, whose boots on the ground, how to talk about this. I think that this is a really complicated issue because on the one hand, you have the optics concerns here, but if you're this administration, you're thinking, if Russia hits a NATO country, if Russia engages in nuclear proliferation, that's a calculus they have not yet begun to contemplate.
Good points and good hair. Everyone, I just want to put, I mean, people are saying it, great hair, really great hair. So people are making comments on it. So I just wanted to, it's the elephant in the room that not only is she making good points, but the fade is good.
Katie, I mean, you've been doing Monday Morning for a while now. I've only been doing this for a couple months with you, but have you ever heard such sanity on the Sunday news shows before?
No, I'm worried for her.
Yeah.
I'm worried for her. We got to make sure she's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, listen, it's been great having you as a contributor.
Yeah.
You're very articulate. You're an accomplished journalist.
Great
the
hair.
sanity, though, the sanity,
yeah,
the sober take, that's not what we're going for right now.
You injected a level of sanity and appropriate sobriety into the discourse that's not really our brand right now.
Yeah.
We'll point you to some of Chuck Todd's recent statements. If you want to have another chance, we'll give you one more chance. If you could emulate his either really corny statements about good and evil, or kind of just suggest that there's no way you can make a deal with Putin. Things like that are better pointers.
Chuck Todd has actually opened up an evil ambiguity broadcasting school where you can go and get it's a 10-week course from the Chuckster. You'll learn from him how to come up with strange formulations to justify every U.S. policy. And after that course, maybe come back and we'll give you another shot.
Yeah. We'll see how it works out. Yeah. Jesus. I know I couldn't believe it. Thanks. Wilson found that clip and it was like this could be, what did it say? It was like no fly zone could lead to a nuclear war. It's like, what the hell?
Whoa. Yeah.
Someone said this?
Yeah.
So thank you for speaking our truth, Jane.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but let's go back to the insanity. We had that nice respite from Jane Coaston.
Yeah, that was too trippy to hear some sanity.
Yeah,
Let's get back to
really weird. Yeah. I'm
normal.
feeling weird. Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's go back to that. So
I know that you have been urging the U.S. to help Ukraine get fighter jets through and from Poland, and they were going to do it through a U.S. airbase. But you just heard Jake Sullivan mention that the intelligence community assessment is that move would risk an escalation. Are you worried that giving those planes to Ukraine could actually trigger World War III?
No one to me sounds sadder on television that we're not launching World War III than Dana Bash. She always just seems so upset that we're not doing enough to make World War III happen. That's like her consistent tone. That's what I pick up.
Yeah, but she's saying, "Are you worried?" So this is making it like she doesn't want that.
Well, okay, I guess we'll see.
I don't know why that would be true. The Russians have complained about everything. Vladimir Putin has said that the sanctions are an act of war. They certainly.
And she's speaking to Senator Rob Portman, by the way.
Of the Buckeye
when
State.
We provided Stingers directly from the U.S. government, which can knock down an airplane and have been successful in doing that at lower altitudes. We have given them helicopters. As recently as January, we provided them U.S. military helicopters. And
we gave them helicopters. That didn't start World War III.
Right.
That was fine. We gave them Stinger missiles. That didn't start World War III. Let's give them more.
Yeah.
Give
Yeah.
them more.
I don't see you see World War III? I don't see it anywhere. Where's World War
III? Do
III?
you see World War III? Yeah, no, let's give them more weapons.
Those are directly from the United States. In this case, this would be Poland providing these airplanes, which are Soviet-style planes, old planes.
If Poland gives them the weapons and that starts World War III, that won't be our fault because Poland is the one that gave the weapons, not us. Even if we gave the weapons to Poland,
Right.
It was Poland that did it.
And they're old weapons. Come on.
MiG-29s. There are also 2 other countries, Slovakia and Bulgaria, that have these airplanes. What we've heard directly from the Ukrainians is they want them badly. They want the ability to have better control over the skies in order.
They want them badly, Katie.
They want them badly.
They want them badly. I'm sold. Set him up.
Yeah.
Set him up.
I don't know about
give
World
them a
War
fight.
III, but I'm torn. I'm torn on World War III, but at the same time, Ukrainians they want these things. They want them badly.
They want them badly.
Fighting chance. So I don't understand why we're not doing it. We initially gave it a green light, as you know, last weekend. The Secretary of State said it was going to get a green light, and for some reason now we're blocking it. So I don't understand why this is any worse than, from a Russian point of view, than other things.
Well, isn't the issue
we've
that
already done or that we're talking about?
Isn't the issue that they would go through an American air base, Ramstein, and that is what is seen as an escalation? I mean, I've certainly heard that from military sources. I'm sure you have.
Well, again, we've sent lots of weaponry through military bases. In fact, we were just with the 82nd Airborne last night, who are here in Poland, thank God, and they're doing a terrific job. But this is what we've been doing all along. So I don't see that change. I do think that what Jake Sullivan said today is encouraging in the sense that he talked about at least providing providing Ukraine with the anti-aircraft systems they need to be able to better protect themselves. We've already provided.
By the way, I'm pretty sure. I mean, this could just be a coincidence, but he's wearing a blue sweater
and yellow,
and a yellow, and that could just be his way of displaying solidarity with Ukraine.
Right.
Which is just
also she's wearing a yellow sweater, and then you got that blue background.
Yeah. And I'm sure that this show of support for Ukraine will inspire all those people fighting Russia right now, knowing that Rob Portman is using them as cannon fodder, but wearing the colors of their
right. Yeah. Aaron, you're a little glitchy sounding. I don't know what that is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. All right, we'll keep playing. Maybe we can.
Provided those for Poland, the Patriot system. But the systems he's talking about are probably also these Soviet-era systems like the S-300, which is not the top of the line, but is very effective still. And again, Poland and other former Warsaw Bloc countries have these. So at a minimum, let's get those into Ukraine and let's stop talking about it. And let's.
We can't hear you. Are you muted? You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Just like the very fact that U.S. lawmakers are over there in Eastern Europe and weighing in on military deliveries. It's just so like it's accepted as normal that this is happening. But it's like, imagine some Russian lawmakers going over to Mexico and talking about or going over to a neighboring country to Mexico and talking about coordinating weapons deliveries for an anti-U.S. insurgency there. It's just like it's nuts. It would never happen. But yet we rule the world, so we can do that. We can fly over there and talk about just very casually sending all these weapons that very much do risk a World War III. And even if they don't risk a World War III, risk something catastrophic and risk killing many, many more Ukrainians. It's just like, but yet everything is so normal. Like, if I was interviewing him, I'd be like, I'd ask him, like, what right do you have to be there? Why are you there? What gives you the right to be talking about weapons deliveries to countries that don't live under you? Like, these countries don't border the U.S. It's all the way across the ocean. So why are you even there? But it's just accepted this so normal that we have the right to do that and to fuel this proxy war. This is nuts.
Maybe Aaron, maybe refresh your Wi-Fi connection. Not Wi-Fi, do the refresh thing in the top just so you're not crunchy. And I'll keep playing the rest of this. Should we keep playing it, Wilson? We just want to make sure Aaron sounds as good as possible.
Do it.
Also,
but the airplanes are also essential. And to me, Vladimir Putin and the Russians seem to be saying everything is escalatory, and yet they are escalating every single day by coming into Ukraine with these weapons. There's discussion, as you know, of them using vacuum bombs and cluster bombs against civilian targets. This is an illegal, this is a brutal, totally unprovoked attack, and increasingly they're choosing civilian targets. So as they escalate, what the Ukrainian people are asking for is just the ability to defend themselves. Give them the ability to try to stop some of this Russian superiority in terms of air power, to be able to save lives and hopefully end up with a peaceful solution to this. If we don't figure out a way to help Ukraine push back, that's much less likely.
It's much less likely to have a peaceful solution if we don't escalate. Also, you notice he mentioned cluster bombs, which the UN ambassador condemned Russia's use of those. But then she had to kind of walk back that statement. So the UN ambassadors, like the UN ambassador website, modified her statements because, of course, the United States uses those. So it's a little awkward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I want to read. Well, maybe we can talk about this in the call-in because someone's like, "Oh, way to accept people's self-determination." Well, maybe let's talk about that in the call-in. It's a worthy thing. It's worthy to have that discussion, I think.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
everyone join the call-in. We got the link in here.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that then.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Robert Portman. And now we're going to what do we got next? We got Jake Sullivan.
Said this week that Russia has the capacity for a chemical weapon attack in Ukraine. The U.S. said this week that Russia has the capacity for a chemical weapon attack in Ukraine. The Polish president said today that would be a game changer. NATO would have to think seriously about what to do. Would the U.S. intervene more directly, militarily, if Russia uses chemical weapons in Ukraine?
Well, first, Dan.
So let me just say quickly that these chemical weapons allegations only began after a very specific incident. And that's when last week, when Victoria Nuland, under questioning from Marco Rubio, she was asked, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons? And Nuland didn't directly answer the question. She didn't say no, or she didn't say yes. She instead said that Ukraine has biological research facilities and she's worried about them falling into Russian hands. Now, the obvious question about that is, if these research facilities are benign, then why would you really care if they fall into Russian hands? It shouldn't be that big of a concern. And also, why didn't you just directly answer the question? But regardless, look, I'm not saying that this means that Ukraine does have biological weapons facilities, but it's just that was a controversial moment, and it raised a whole new series of questions. And right after that, that's when we started getting claims from the U.S. and anonymous sources from NATO countries that they have intelligence that Russia is plotting chemical weapons attacks. And then Russia has been saying the same thing about the U.S. too, that they have allegations that U.S.-backed forces in Ukraine are planting false flags. So now all sides are trading these allegations. We have to note the relevant history here, which is that in Syria, the U.S. has constantly used allegations of chemical weapons use to justify warfare against Syria. Those allegations have subsequently been undermined by a whole series of leaks. I've covered them when it comes to Duma in April 2018. The OPCW team did a whole report that found no evidence of a chemical attack by the Syrian government. The obvious implication is that that incident was staged by sectarian death squads on the ground. In the case of Ghouta in 2013, the major incident where sarin killed hundreds of people, the reporting of Seymour Hersh shows that there was a whole bunch of intelligence that the U.S. had that actually this was not carried out by the Syrian government, but was carried out by sectarian death squads, aka rebels. The U.S. knows this. Even U.S. officials inside the Obama administration leaked this because they were concerned that this was going to take the U.S. to war because Obama was going to bomb Syria over it. So this is in the U.S. playbook to accuse other people of chemical weapons incidents when they know the evidence isn't there. And I think what the agenda here is to basically leave open the possibility of a U.S. military intervention. There are some people inside the White House and other NATO countries who do want to at least have the option of getting more directly involved. So accusing Russia of possibly committing these chemical attacks and laying down a red line that would be triggered if it's crossed, that would trigger military intervention if it's crossed. I think that is what they're doing here. They're trying to leave open the option of military escalation. So it's indeed, again, very, very dangerous.
Let's go back to the clip. Right, we have more.
It is a very legitimate concern, fear that Russia would use chemical weapons in Ukraine. They're right now accusing the United States and the Ukrainians of potentially using chemical or biological weapons, which is a tell. It's a tell that they themselves may be preparing to do so and then trying to pin the blame on someone else. That's a classic page out of the Russian playbook. As the president said on Friday, if Russia were to use chemical...
As opposed to the U.S. playbook, Katie, the U.S. would never, ever accuse someone else of something that they do themselves.
No projection. No, they would never condemn cluster bombs, for instance.
Exactly.
Chemical weapons in Ukraine, they would pay a severe price. And I'm going to leave it at that today as we work closely with our NATO allies and partners. And together we communicate through channels to the Russians to reinforce that message that Russia, in fact, would pay a severe price if they use chemical weapons in Ukraine.
Jake, I understand that the U.S. is treading lightly, in large part, because Russia is a nuclear power. Vladimir Putin has his nuclear weapons on heightened alert. We know that Russia has smaller, so-called tactical nuclear weapons. What is America's level of concern that Putin could use some kind of nuclear weapon?
Well, we are watching this extremely closely. And obviously, the escalation risk with a nuclear power is severe, and it is a different kind of conflict than other conflicts the American people have seen over the years. And the American president, Joe Biden, has to take that responsibility extremely seriously, even as we redouble our efforts to support the Ukrainians. As things stand today, the United States has not adjusted our nuclear posture, but it is something that we monitor day by day, hour by hour, because it is a paramount priority to the president.
So that sounds like you're concerned.
Yeah.
Well, anytime you have a nuclear power fighting in a
for a chemical weapon attack,
you should be concerned, right?
Around too much. It sounds like it sounds like you're concerned of the possibility of nuclear weapons use. Yes, of course. Of course, it's concerning. Of course, it is. It's the worst possible thing.
Also, totally, I mean, someone forgot to put powder on this man.
On Jake? Well, they might have powdered him up. He's pretty...
And he's shown through. He sweat through. He schwitz through. He's nervous. If he's shining through because he's nervous about nuclear war, then that's good. But let's see.
Power fighting in a conflict zone in Europe near NATO territory. Of course, we have to focus on and be concerned about the possibility of escalation, the risk of escalation. But as I said before, we have not seen anything that would require us to change our nuclear posture at this time. It's something we will continue to watch carefully.
Yeah. By the way, it's just incredible that this guy even has this job. He played a critical role under Biden in backing the coup of 2014, fueling the proxy war. He really wanted Obama to arm Ukraine more than he did. And now basically being back in power has given them an opportunity to pick up where they left off. And on top of what they did in Syria, where, as I've often quoted him on the show, Jake Sullivan wrote an email to Hillary Clinton 10 years ago, last month, and wrote, Al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria. So these are the kind of people who we have in charge of our quote unquote national security. Is people who side with Al-Qaeda in Syria and the Azov neo-Nazis inside Ukraine. It's just nuts.
So gross. Can you imagine saying that and still having a job? And Newland, too. How does she still have a job?
It's crazy.
Fuck the EU.
Crazy. Yeah, F the EU. Yeah.
We have one more clip.
Talk about military aid for Ukraine. You said that the U.S. talks this past week to give Polish or other NATO fighter jets to Ukraine were, quote, the right thing. But National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan just told me that President Biden decided flying planes from NATO bases into contested airspace, quote, doesn't make sense. Is that a mistake?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of us that would like to see the planes over there, and I know the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, talked about it just last weekend. I think one of the things that Jake is getting at is at some point there's been so much focus on these planes, especially these particular planes, that they themselves could become a target. The Russians are well aware of this. And one of the things we have to remember is this is all about air defense. And you can do it with planes, you can do it with drones, which have been incredibly effective in Ukraine, much bigger than anyone ever thought, as well as I mentioned, the Stingers and the Javelins. So
what's up with all these senators like pretending like they're military experts? Like we saw it with Rob Portman before too, and he was talking about military strategy. Like they all think they're military geniuses. Maybe you should focus on your job, which is to serve your constituents of Minnesota and Ohio, and not be worried about how to like wage a proxy war in Ukraine across the world. I don't know, just a suggestion. But at the same time, Katie, there is a counterpoint. And for that, we're going to go to a flashback clip, because if you're someone who is doubting Amy Klobuchar's competence to weigh in on such things as powerful military equipment and systems being shipped off to a country in the middle of a war with a nuclear armed power, Amy Klobuchar has prepared for this moment for a long time. And on her rap sheet, on her record, is experience in bullying her own staff, forcing them to clean a comb that she had to use to eat a salad because they forgot her cutlery, and throwing staplers at them. And that, as she told us back when all this happened, has prepared her for this moment to get tough on Vladimir Putin. Let's watch that clip.
Well, to me, if you are a boss, you have to have high standards, and that is what I have always had. And that doesn't mean it's a popularity contest all the time. And so I've had high standards for myself, high standards for our staff, and mostly I'm going to have high standards for the country. But one can always do better, and that means you want to be sure that you are listening to people. If they felt that something was unfair or they felt bad about something, but I still think that you have to demand good product. When you're out there on the world stage and dealing with people like Vladimir Putin, yeah, you want someone who's tough. You want someone that demands the answers and that's going to get things done. And that's what I've done my whole life.
And throw staplers too. She's a stapler thrower.
So that's the counterpoint. So yes, is it strange that a senator from Minnesota is weighing in on military transfers between NATO countries and a war with a nuclear armed country? Yes, but did Amy Klobuchar throw staplers at her staff and force them to clean?
Yeah, you're right.
She
is herself kind of a military figure.
Yes.
She's experienced with weaponry, unconventional weaponry, but weaponry nonetheless, in the form of staplers and combs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's no javelin, but it's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I answer that super chat question?
Where is it? Because I was looking at the
Sparty Matt says, I watched Ukraine on Fire after a pushback interview. Do you have any critiques of it? I wish I could recommend it without being called a Putin apologist. Look, Sparty, you got to get over. I mean, if you want to engage in the conversation about Ukraine and Russia, you're going to have to deal with being called a Putin apologist. It comes with the territory, especially because often when you challenge the conventional narrative, those who promote the conventional narratives don't really have anything else to say except to call you a Putin apologist or repeating Russian talking points. So you got to get over that. In terms of a critique of Ukraine on Fire, yeah, I haven't seen it for a couple of years, but I'm pretty sure they kind of downplayed the corruption of Yanukovych, who was the president who was overthrown. And,
that wasn't very highlighted.
Yeah, so that's not really. And he did apparently he made some mistakes. He wasn't he wasn't scot-free, but. So I think they could have been more objective in looking at him. But ultimately, the point of that is that was a coup back then. It was, and it was violent. It was led by the far right, even though the Maidan protest started out being very, just anti-corruption, pro-European integration, a lot there to admire and support. And people really sacrificed to be part of those protests. But the problem is when it turned right, when the U.S. exploited it to back regime change, and that turned violent, and it led to a coup government that was dominated by the far right. And Yanukovych, no matter his flaws and his corruption, he didn't deserve to be overthrown. And in fact, there was polls at the time that still showed him to be the most popular politician inside the country, which says to you that Ukraine is a very divided society and has been for a long time. It's probably way more united now that Russia has invaded, and people who supported Russia or sympathize with Russia, many of them now, including those I speak to, are not sympathetic with Russia anymore. And in fact, Russia's united many people against Russia in Ukraine. But before that, up until this point, Ukraine's been very, very divided. And so that's why trying to use it as a pawn against Russia and basically force it into the Western camp and not respecting the rights of people inside Ukraine who speak Russian and identify with Russia, why that's been so catastrophic. And it's been warned about by experts like Stephen Cohen, John Mearsheimer for years, that this would lead to exactly what is happening right now. Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to hear this, by the way, anytime as audio only, you can do that at our Substack, substack.com. Usefulidiots.substack.com. Also, we have, guys, you know what? We fight the war. There's someone called, you may have heard of them. They're called the Young Turks. We don't want to engage in, I would say leftist infighting, but I'm not sure if that's a fair application of the term. But some kind of fighting, we don't want to engage in it publicly. Yeah. We don't like to air our dirty laundry publicly. So we air our dirty laundry semi-publicly behind the Substack paywall.
Behind a paywall.
Behind a paywall. So if you want to hear Aaron respond to being attacked by the Young Turks, you can do that at our Substack at usefulidiots.substack.com. Also, of course, we give you our extended interviews, and so you're definitely going to want to become supporters and subscribers at our Substack. Also, ad-free content, so it's definitely worth it. It's a great time. Yeah.
If you like Monday Morning, if you appreciate what we do here, and you can, please support us at usefulidiots.substack.com. It helps us keep doing the show and keep it free for everybody, and bring you the Sunday news show highlights that we all learned so much from, like the Chuckster's wise aphorisms
about evil, good versus evil. Yeah, we should make t-shirts that say that, honestly. And don't go anywhere now. You can join us on Call In, which is a free app. We have the link to the chat in the YouTube description. Also, always like and subscribe. You can just subscribe. We got to let's get our sub numbers up. And that's a free way to just support the show. So we will see you, of course, when we release the show on Friday, but we'll see you right now on Call In. Anything else we need to tell people, Aaron?
Have a great day.
All right. Yeah. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.